So, hello class. What we're doing today is going over the Lyric program and how to do that. First thing we're going to do is go over, you should have already combined the write and read. And again, this is just stage one of what you should be doing. There's going to be another stage to this when we get the scanner to work. So what we're doing right now is inside this while loop, above your write line, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing rules. One example rule that I did was I already commented out. So I'm going to uncomment it, and I'm going to comment this line out. What this does is, rule 1 basically means just output the length of the string for every line in my lyrics. So it's going to write the string dot function of string, which is length, and just output a number. Once I have this rule made, what I want to do is I want to comment this out in bulk, set it up like this, and then create another rule. So I'm going to go up here and say rule 2 is going to be something else. To get this different rule, what you want to do is go to School Fusion, go down to the string website, which is right here, this one right here. Click on that link. What this has, it has every single string function defined and described. So we're going to scroll down to the numbers, 1 through whatever. Please realize what you want to do here is once you find something, replace. This replaces a single character. If you click on this, it tells you exactly what you need to do for it, and even example code. So this says that it returns a string. The function name is replace. These characters represent these two things. It returns a string, and here's some example code and example output so you know what happens. So what you need to do now is go in here and use that function. So instead of length, you're going to use replace. And I would replace the character C with the character D. And that would be another rule. You need to make at least 5 rules. So go through and do that. Make sure when you're making the rules that it's actually possible to do and not just something that's way out there. Once you get that done, next class, what we're going to be doing is taking care of these and putting them into functions. We're also going to be taking the scanner file, implementing it into this file to say which rule do you want to run. We're going to have a little user guide there. And so what you want to be doing today is making these rules work so that it outputs. You also might want to uncomment out the system.out.print line and keep it as scurrent line, because what you can do here is to test this feature out, I can print this to the screen and print it to the file, which allows you to instantly see it instead of always opening up the output.txt file. Make sure your input file is named input.txt and your output file is named output.txt. If they aren't that, you'll lose points. Actually, you won't get any points because it won't work. We already talked about this. You need to be able to combine the buffered reader and buffered writer Java file into one file, and then also combine the scanner file into that same file. You need to have a pre-post summary on every function. These are some example rules. You cannot use these rules, but you can change the text and use that same rule. That's up to you. Feel free to play around with this. Some of them are more fun than others. I recommend doing at least 3 this rule. And this rule is also fun to do. Some rules are easier than others. Try to challenge yourself. Please realize that 5 working rules to get a 30. And then after you get that 30, and only after you get that 30, can you earn the other points. So you need a menu system for the scanner to pick which rule is ran. You need 10 points to get the file named correctly, which means period 1, my last name, first letter of first name, underscore lyrics with a capital L. Make sure it's capital L. Make sure you have an underscore. Make sure there's no space between 1 and F. Make sure you have 1 first. Then you also need pre, post, name, date, summary, and period in documentation. It has to be in documentation comments, which is */*, not just /* and not //. It has to be documentation comments because they are documentation. You need to have pre, post, and summary documentation comments for all functions, which I'll explain later on. I'll also explain later on how to do the turnitin.org, because I will be checking for cheaters this time. And last but not least, you need to be able to error check the user input. so that if the user puts in something that you are not expecting, it re-queries the user. And you also need to check the lyrics to make sure all that doesn't break your code. For extra credit, if you want, you can do the pig Latin rule, which changes fencin into ensign F with adding in A at the end. The working rule must be outputted to the file. I don't care if it outputs to the screen. That doesn't matter to me. I'm only looking at the file. You cannot use the menu system based off of key listener or mouse listener. You have to use the scanner Java file that's posted on there. And a word of advice is make sure you're not leaving open your code on your computer so that the next class can see it. If the next class sees it and uses it, you are basically giving your code to that user, and you are responsible, and you might get a 0 for that program because you shared your code with someone else. So make sure you remove the file. Also, don't share your rules with other people. If you have the same rules, as in baby to Cena, or maybe okay to what, and someone else has okay to what, that's a giant red flag for cheating, because I'm not telling you what words to use. Just be aware of that. And please also realize that turning E's into Y's and B's into 3's is the same rule, because it uses the same numbered function on this website. So you need to use at least 5 different numbered functions. So using this would be 1. Using this would be 2 different ones. So what I mean by that is turning ABs into BCs is the same rule as turning ABCs into BCDs, because it's string to string. Whereas this is char to char and this is string to string. But if you use this function to replace chars and this function to replace strings, it's the same thing. So make sure you use different functions. They're different functions because you have different parameters. And this is also different names, but that's still different. This is version 2, which I'll be posting. This is version 2, which I'll be posting on there. Please make sure you keep up to date with the version, as this is subject to change, and so are the requirements. If there's any other questions, I should be covering this on the next one. If you are quote-unquote finished, just make another rule. Challenge yourself. Learn something in programming by challenging yourself. That's my best recommendation. Have a great one. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hate my movies. Add some comments in there, too. Live a little. See you later.